So an update from the last few videos a while ago when I was taking this apart. So there's that coil that I put the Gulf coat condenser coating on. My brain is not working. It's a little late at night and had a long week. So so this is finished. We have the ZRC galvanized compound on the base material. So off the coast, any of the salt water from the ocean that settles down inside here, off the fins, collects. We won't rot off the the tray. Another thing, this is another one. Couldn't find my can of marine because they actually have a marine series coating. This is for electronic components. All your switches, all your components, when you take apart your switch, when you unplug from the board up here or any of your plugs, just put one drop, just one drop. It's the slightest, not even a spray, where it just barely dribbles out, and you put it down onto your contact points and into your plugs where you put them back together. And this puts a coating so it doesn't oxidize. It's you'll have great electrical contact, but this prevents oxidation on electronic components where you put them back and you have mating surfaces, old turn pots and stuff like that. This has been used for decades. Actually, yeah, look at that, 60 years. This has been around forever. But they have a marine version of this for marine. They also have one if you have sliders with gold contacts on high-end audio equipment. They have one specially made for gold contact points. But you only use that one for gold products. It doesn't make it any better, but it was specially made for gold plated components. That's another one. They have many products. So anything that you disconnect and put back together, you've had corrosion on components bar. For you guys who live in coastal areas, really know what I'm talking about. Anybody who lives inland never sees that stuff, especially if they're in Arizona. They go, what's corrosion? They have cars out there been 80 years in the desert abandoned with just a slight coat of rust on them. So this is going back together, and as you see, it definitely doesn't look original because it is white now and it used to be beige. And definitely the coil doesn't look original. I did the inner components too. Didn't need to, but since I was there, I just went gung-ho on all the stuff. All the copper, anything exposed got, except where you have a grounding point. Here's a little ground point. I forgot to put a little piece of masking tape, so I had to scrape off the coating off of that so I have a good ground point. And then you could spray it again and put a little there, or you could put something like this on it just so it has a slight coating, so any salt water gets on it, you get no corrosion. And so that's it, ready to go back together. This is what it's looking like. And I like that blue. But now this is where I would not want to use a blue, actually. This had a gold coating on it, and gold coatings are good, and aluminum are pretty good at reflecting IR wavelength from the sunlight. IR is your infrared, and that generates heat. Infrared absorbs into black, dark blue, reds really good, and actually creates heat. So I would not want to put a coil that was a dark color in the sun. And they always tell you, and when you read instructions, for those who read instructions, they always say don't place your coils in direct sunlight, preferably on the shaded side of a house, have shade over them, face the coil in a certain direction, all that kind of stuff. Every BTU counts. And if you're in a place like Arizona and it's record-breaking heat, it's 115 degrees, and you have the coil facing the sun in midday and everything like that at the hottest time of day, it literally degrades your amount of BTU rejection and lowers your output. I'm here in San Francisco, 68 degrees, 78 degrees. 78 in San Francisco is considered really hot for a lot of people. And so this 9,000 BTU unit will never really meet its potential, but it's being put in a part of a house where it will more than suffice for the whole house. 9,000 BTUs in a well insulated airtight house. In the future, as we're starting to build these passive house, 9,000 BTUs is all you need. And guys scoff at that. They have no idea how well you could build a house when properly designed. 24,000 BTUs for a 2,000 square foot house is more than enough. If you properly design and build the house, 24,000 BTUs is more than enough heating or cooling. Unless maybe if you were in, say, North Dakota with a polar vortex that comes down with the record breaking every 10 years or so like that, then on those days you'll need a little bit more than probably that 24,000. You'll need your backup heaters to come on then. But other than that, you guys have no idea what the future of house building and energy efficiency is bringing to us. And days where we'll laugh at the days when my grandchildren will say, wow, you put 40, 60, 80,000 BTU furnaces or heat pump systems on house, and we only use 2,000, 5,000, 6,000 BTU heat pumps or furnaces. Actually, furnaces on their way out, gas is on the way out. Oh, another thing. So here's the temperature sensor. So here's your thermistor. And inside there, I actually, where it's pressed up against the copper, I put a coat of Arctic silver or Arctic diamond, which is a heat compound for computer chips. And so what it does is, when you have a round surface and you lay a round surface on a flat surface, let's get this around like this so you can see a little bit better. You only have that little itty bitty teeny tiny contact point. Do you see how small that is? And that's on a flat surface. Well, when you have a round surface touching another concaved round surface, right? You just have an absolutely minute touching area for thermal conductivity. So what I do is I put a little Arctic diamond or Arctic silver right at this point right here, and right on this point right here, and I slip the thermistors together, put them in there, or you put it on there and then put your clip around it. And any imperfections, like let's use this as an example. Let's see if I could catch it right here. Oh, I know I could catch it. Well, you see this has a little ridge right here, and then there's a little ridge on there. That means it's only touching at this point. It's only touching at this point. And if I put it on a flat surface, you can literally see light through the other side because it's only touching at the ridges. Well, do you think all copper is perfectly straight and it's actually, leveled out, machined, and lapped together perfectly? No, it has imperfections. And so you have two round copper pipes that are definitely not perfect, and they're being pressed together, but they're not 100% compact. And that's the reason for things like Arctic diamond, Arctic silver, and computer chips. There's such a small area with so much heat, it slows down their heat transfer. So I got some Arctic diamond in this one, and down in the one way the hell down there. You see that like white looking tip, that gray tip right there? You see that? That's actually the Arctic diamond right there. That's another sleeve with a thermistor, and so it is coated with it, and it's slipped up inside the sleeve. And so what this does is it speeds up your transfer and makes sure you have complete 360 degree touching. Whoa, I really white brightened that out. Touching all the way around, and just better transfer. Now another thing, thermistors come in different grades and qualities. You could get really cheap ones, which a lot of manufacturers use, and they go out. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just par for the course. They have to make production. So if you ever have to change a thermistor, and especially if it's one of those little BB ones that it might be up in air coil or something like that, you could buy eBay ones. If it's a proprietary one with a clip and everything like that, and they tell you it's $90, $130, basically has a little thermistor on it, and you see that little black BB. That thing isn't 5 cents. It's 5 cents and it's attached to just a wire and a clip on the end, and because it might have a big brand name on it, it'll be $30, $90, $130. I was quoted $130 for one manufacturer. Some, you know, very, it's like they're the only ones who have it with that clip and everything like that. eBayed, 30 cents, done. And I got a pack of 5 or a pack of 10. I even got the ones with the wires on them for like $3 and just spliced it in, done deal, it's off and going. But you can get very high-end thymistors that are platinum, palladium thymistors. They're for more rugged climates, higher accuracy, more durable. And many HVAC technicians have had thermistor failures. Well, if you go to a place like DigiKey or Mauser and you cross-reference the thermistor and then you find one for the more rugged industry for heavy automation where reliability is really high, well, instead of buying one for 15 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents, it might cost you $3 for that thermistor. And you put that on the end of the wire and you'll have a lifetime thermistor usually. That's about all my ads for the next time you'll see this will be all together. Still waiting for the roof to be resurfaced because of the weather and the temperature. It still cannot be resurfaced. So I have 3 systems that have to go up and they're all waiting for roofs to be resurfaced. And when the weather prevails and the roofs get resurfaced, I'll be up on the roof installing this. That's it for now for this update. And you'll see this in a little bit. Okay guys, see ya. Like that blue.